Good morning, Alberta. My name is Patrick. I'm forming the Working Class Canadians Party of Alberta. The reason I'm doing this is because I am a working class Albertan. I dropped out of school when I was in grade 8. I was 14 years old, and I went to work. Throughout my entire adult life, I have worked. I've paid my way. Most recently, I was a truck driver. I did it for 10 years, drove every kilometer of the Trans-Canada Highway multiple times. I loved driving in the wintertime, especially in the Coquihalla. I loved going through the mountains. It was my favorite run. But in December of 2018, I was injured at work. It ended my driving career, something that I absolutely loved doing. So much so that I was gone for 3 months at a time, usually. And I had to give up my entire life, my whole lifestyle. I used to ride motorcycle, had to give that up, had to sell my bike, which was really difficult for me to get through. But because I was injured on the job, workers' compensation paid for me to go back to school because I had no qualifications to do any other job. And I was no longer able to do physical labor jobs. So I went back to school. I went to NAIT, got a diploma in business administration, human resource management. But after graduation, I went out, I flooded the market with resumes. I tried, I did. But nobody wants to hire somebody in human resource management that has no experience. Entry-level positions want 2 years experience. And I'm disabled. And it's really hard for me to actually say that because I'm still getting used to that concept that I'm no longer able-bodied. I use a wheelchair. When I finished school, workers' compensation cut my income down to 33% of what I was getting while I was going to school. I mean, I always understood, but now I'm very familiar with how it feels to have to decide between paying your rent and buying groceries. I've had to make that choice, and it's not an easy choice to make. I understand what it's like to be a working class Albertan on a limited income, having to pay bills, having to live, having to survive. So I understand how you feel, which I don't believe our current political leaders in any of the parties understands. I don't think they realize what it's like to not have enough money to pay your bills. They don't empathize with the people that have paid for and supported their careers, and it's really frustrating. I feel marginalized. I feel devalued. And I feel ignored. And I have been made to feel worthless and useless by an entire society. It sucks. I want the government to not do that. I want our government to do what it is governments are supposed to do, which is to provide services to the public, to the taxpayers, that they're unable to provide for themselves. Healthcare, education, infrastructure, to name a few. We need to stop fighting each other. We need to stop attacking each other on social media and come to the realization that unless you are part of the 1% of the population that are wealthy and comfortable and able to enjoy their lives, you are the exact same as me. It's not difficult for a government to do what it's supposed to do, but your government leaders need to have their priorities straight. Right now, our government's priority in Alberta is make money for oil and gas. Keep Albertans poor. Erode or outright destroy the healthcare system. Cut funding to education. It's easy to control a population if they're uneducated. I don't care about oil and gas. I do believe that there are better ways to produce energy that are not as destructive or not destructive at all to our environment. The government's priorities need to be the working class, not the rich. And as long as we have politicians who are being supported by the wealthy, that's what we're going to have. The people who pay the most money in taxes are getting the least level of representation from the elected officials. That has to change. We can change our system. We can change our our province, our world, our society. But it has to start somewhere.